Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parshas Behar, Tavshin Pei Daled. And the very first pasuk has a famous comment from Rashi on it. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe Behar Sinai Lemar. Hashem said to Moshe on Mount Sinai, saying. And then the Parsha goes into the mitzvah of Shemita, where every 7 years the land of Israel is to be left fallow. No one's supposed to work the land. Anything that grows on its own, it has a certain sanctity to it. You can't act as an owner on it. It has to be open to all, including for animals. And the Rashi cites a Medrash Sifra, that the Sifra is bothered by the words Behar Sinai. In the opening pasuk, when it says Hashem spoke to Moshe, typically when Hashem tells Moshe to relate a mitzvah or a message to the Jewish people, it says, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe Lemar, and Hashem said to Moshe, saying. It doesn't tell us where the mitzvah was given, and we know the mitzvahs were given at Mount Sinai. So why here is the Torah mentioning that Hashem spoke to Moshe at Har Sinai when he told him to tell the Jewish people the mitzvah of Shemitah? Wasn't that by all mitzvahs? And therefore, the Sifra, as Rashi cites, has its answer as to why these words are here. There are other answers that are offered, and I'd like to share some of them with you. So one answer is brought down in Mayane Beis HaShoeva, which are the writings of Rabbi Shimon Schwab Zatzal. And he answers is that the reason the words Behar Sinai is mentioned here by this mitzvah specifically is because there is something about this mitzvah that makes it very strongly connected to the entire concept of Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is the concept the concept of Mount Sinai is that the Torah is divine given. The Torah is given by Hashem to Moshe to give to the Jewish people. The Torah is not man-made, it's God-made. And if you look at the mitzvah of Shemitah, it would be really hard to say that someone would make up this mitzvah. If the Torah was just made up by people, then the people who made up this mitzvah would actually have been they'd had a lot of chutzpah. They'd be quite reckless, actually. Because think about it. Leaving a land fallow, leaving a field fallow is, in certain ways, basic farming. A land needs to get a rest. If you constantly use it, you weaken it. It needs to replenish itself. Okay, so what does a farmer do? He basically rotates fields. So sometimes they'll have one field lay fallow, but the other ones are still operating. Now here, you're telling an entire country not to work its land. The entire country has to be left fallow. Nobody does that. You know why? Because if you do that, how are we going to survive? Where's the food going to come from? Now, the truth is, the Torah asks that question. The Torah says, I'm giving you the mitzvah of Shemitah, Hashem says, but you may ask, what are we going to eat without planting and without plowing? So what does the Torah say? Don't worry. The 6th year will be a major bumper crop. You'll have enough food for the 6th year, the 7th year, and the 8th year, because you have to start planting in the 8th year itself. Okay. So who in their right mind, if they're making this all up, would make such a promise? Makes no sense. Makes no sense to do that. How can you do that? How do you make such a promise? Don't worry. The 6th year, everything is going to take care of 3 years of crops. How can you say that? So the mitzvah of Shemitah is a mitzvah that supports the idea that the Torah is not man-given, but God-given. And God can make these promises. God can say, leave the entire country fallow, and I'll take care of it for you. Don't worry. So because of the fact that the mitzvah of Shemitah is so essential in supporting what Har Sinai, what Mount Sinai means, therefore it is here that the Torah says, by this mitzvah, Hashem told this mitzvah of Shemitah at Har Sinai. Because the whole idea of Har Sinai, the whole idea that Hashem gave the Torah at Har Sinai, that is something that is strongly supported by this mitzvah of Shemitah. That's one answer that's given. Another answer that's given is the following. This comes from the commentary of the Kli Yakar. Kli Yakar suggests the following connection, and I'll read it to you, and I'll translate as I read it. Okay, so he wants to say, Kashala Moshe al Har Sinai, when Moshe went up on Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, Achar Shiva Shavua Shesafru Yisrael, Mem Tes Yom Min Pesach Aratzeres. The Jewish people counted 7 weeks, 49 days, from leaving Egypt until Moshe went to receive the Torah on Mount Sinai, which is the period of Sefirah we're in right now. And when that happened, when day 50 came and Moshe was on Mount Sinai, Niskadash as Oisai Har, the mountain became sanctified. That's what Torah says. No one can go up on the mountain on that day, other than Moshe and whoever else was supposed to go up. The Nesar Bezriya B'Charisha. And because now that mountain was sanctified, you couldn't do any kind of work in it. On day 50, in which the Torah was given. For Huzman Meshichas Hayovel. It was also the time of the blowing of the shofar. That's one of the aspects. Now, you have every 7 years, you have Shemita. And then after 7 cycles of 7 years, the 50th year is called Yovel, the Jubilee year, which is a repeat of the Shemitah year regarding the land, plus the fact that a shofar is blown on Yom Kippur, which is a signal to allow all Jewish slaves to go free and all ancestral lands to return to their original owners. So he says, so day 50 was the day that's talking about Yovel. We're still in the giving of the Torah. So you had on day 50, the Mount Sinai became forbidden to work on. V'huzman Meshichas Hayovel. It was also a time of the blowing of a shofar. Right? The Torah says there was the sound of the shofar that was heard at Mount Sinai. What was the purpose of that blowing? So the way the Kli Yakar explains it, which we'll appreciate more when we get into the Yovel aspect, is Likroi Derar V'chavshi L'chol Yisrael Chayres Ala Luchais. It was a declaration of freedom, of liberty, for all the Jewish people, that now they have a freedom through the giving of the Torah, which Pirkei Avos says that the Elocha ben Chavshi Elamesha Sha'osek B'Torah, the only truly free person, which means the person is truly free of having to be enslaved to their desires, to their physicality. The way a person can elevate and be free from the bonds of physicality is through the Torah. The blowing of the shofar was that declaration of freedom to the Jewish people that came about through the receiving of the Torah. Okay. It was a freedom that came through the tablets, the 10 Commandments on the tablets, and the blowing of the shofar of the giving of the Torah. But at that time, meaning of the time that Moshe was on Mount Sinai, that is when Hashem told Moshe the mitzvah of Shemitah and Yovel, Lomar, to say, Shebemispar Shiva, that after that with the number 7, of a Mispar Mentes, and with the number 49, which are the numbers that we have by the giving of the Torah, and Inoisen Kadush Shazu L'chol Eretz Yisrael. Not only is now that the sanctity that was on Mount Sinai, I will now give that sanctity to all of the land of Israel. All of the land of Israel will be like that. Sheish lo dimyon v'yichas em Har Sinai. The land of Israel has a similarity to Mount Sinai. Mitzadayoysa avir demachim v'entarek taras Eretz Yisrael. Bahar Sinai. The land of Israel is similar to Mount Sinai, the place of the giving of the Torah, because we have a concept that the air, the oxygen of Israel makes one wise. And we have another saying our sages say, there is no Torah, like the Torah of the land of Israel, and it has Har Sinai. Al kain roy litain gam la'aretz ahi kedushas Har Sinai, achar mispar mem teshana, v'chem mispar zayin. Therefore, it is befitting that the land receives the sanctity of Mount Sinai after a number of 49 years, and the number 7. So you've got, so therefore, he's saying that what the aspect of Har Sinai which was that the land that Har Sinai became sanctified, that is now going to be that idea and that sanctity is now being applied to the whole land of Israel. Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, was sanctified because the Torah was given on it, and therefore now that sanctity goes to the whole land of Israel because the whole land of Israel has Mount Sinai. It is the land that helps a person attain wisdom. There is no Torah like the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael itself has the power of Torah in it, and therefore the Shemitah and the Yovel, again going with the number 7 and 49, 7 cycles of 7. All this are the similar things that we found regarding the giving of the Torah. We now are going to find that regarding the sanctity of the land. Or we also have that the blowing of, as I mentioned, on Yovel, we have the blowing of the shofar that declares liberty and freedom, as we said before, and that is a commemoration of the blowing of the shofar that took place at Mount Sinai, which also delivered a liberty to us to be free from the shackles of our physicality. So therefore, what the Kli Yakar is saying is that the reason why the Torah is saying here that Hashem said to Moshe on Mount Sinai, the giving of the laws of Shemitah and Yovel, is because they are meant to be similar to what took place by the giving of the Torah. So it was there, as he says, at that time that Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, that is when he told Moshe about these mitzvahs, because these mitzvahs are meant to be to represent, to commemorate, in certain ways to continue that which took place at the giving of the Torah, dealing with the same numbers that are involved in the giving of the Torah, 7 and 49 and 50. Those numbers that were present at Mount Sinai are present regarding Shemitah and Yovel, because Shemitah and Yovel are meant to be to commemorate and to commemorate and to actually, in certain ways, continue or apply that which happened at Mount Sinai to Eretz Yisrael. Mount Sinai, when the Torah was given, was sanctified. Eretz Yisrael, because of its contribution of Torah, it has a chance to be sanctified with the numbers of 7 and 7 cycles of 7, and the 50 and the number 50. And the blowing of the shofar that took place at Mount Sinai also take place on Yovel as part of the commemoration of what happened at Mount Sinai. So this is the Kli Yakar's very interesting explanation as to why the words Bahar Sinai are mentioned here specifically by the mitzvah of Shemitah and Yovel. Okay, now, the next thing I want to share with you is the comments of the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch, the book of mitzvahs, which is the book that explains, that gives understanding to the mitzvahs, as we mentioned many times before. Understanding the reasons of mitzvahs that we have are not the definitive reasons, they are a reason, and actually a reason meant to help us take life lessons out of the mitzvah, to apply to apply the meaning of the mitzvah to our lives. So when it comes to the mitzvah of Shemitah, the Sefer HaChinuch tells us that Shemitah is very similar to Shabbos. Because think about it. Shabbos is 6 days of work. The 7th day we rest. Shemitah, we work the land for 6 years. The 7th year we rest. So therefore, says the Sefer HaChinuch the following: Likboya b'libeinu uletzayer tzir chazik machshavateinu inyan chidush ha'olam. The purpose of Shemitah is that it should be used as a means of internalizing within us the idea that Hashem created the world. Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. And this is what we are doing by Shemitah. We're working 6 years and resting the 7th. And he says the purpose of this is to actually uproot or to contradict a belief, an ancient belief, and perhaps even a belief that may still exist, that the world wasn't created. The world is. That's where everything starts. The world is. There's nothing that created the world. It just is and continues. And understandably, that kind of belief erases God from the picture, God forbid. Chas v'shalom. It erases God from the picture. And therefore, our reminding ourselves that Hashem created the world in 6 days, and rested on the seventh, is about strengthening, internalizing within us the belief that no, Hashem created the world. And that's what he says. So by being in this focus, which is really the focus of the rabbis of Israel, to keep track. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be keeping track. Okay, there's 6 years of work. 7th year we have Shemitah. That keeping track and our keeping track of it and our being focused on that, because we know every 7 years we're going to have to. You can't work the land. This is all part of the internalizing the lesson that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. And as he says, this is what we do every week. This is what we do every week on Shabbos. On Shabbos, we have that weekly reminder, that weekly lesson. And then we have a broader lesson, not only regarding our weekday activity, but regarding how we work the land. It's a lesson on a whole different scale. And then he continues, now another part of Shemitah, besides not working the land, is that anything that grows in your field is ownerless. You can't act as an owner on it. You have to allow people want to come get it, they can come get it. Animals can come get it. So along with the resting of the land, not doing work on the land, HaKadosh Baruch Hashem also commanded that whatever comes out of the land on its own has to be ownerless. That a person should remember that the land that produces all the fruits each and every year, it doesn't do it based on its own power. There's a master on the land and a master on the masters of the land. And when he desires, when he wants, he can tell them they're not yours. So we have the reminder of the fact that we don't work in the 7th year, that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. And everything that grows from the land is, again, the land is not just something on its own. It operates on its own, and that we take an ownership of that land. But rather, it is Hashem's world, Hashem's land. He is the one who created it. He is the master. And he is the one who, when he wants, he could say, sorry, not yours. This is all part of understanding how the world belongs to Hashem. That's the mitzvah of Shemitah. Now it comes to the mitzvah of Yovel, which is, again, that 50th year. Here, the Sefer Chinuch explains, Sharatza Hashem lohidia la'amoi kal shaloi. Again, just as we said before, Hashem wants to make it known to his people that everything is his. And at the end, everything will return to where he originally wanted it to be given. For the land is his. As the pasuk says, the land is mine. So what's happening here is, again, Hashem is showing, I am the one who's the master of everything. You bought a piece of land from someone. Yovel basically works when it comes to the returning of the land, that we know when Joshua came to the land of Israel, conquered the land of Israel, the land was divided up amongst the Jewish people. And that kind of land is meant to remain by a person. But there are times where a person may have to sell off land. He needs money. Okay, so you bought the land. It's yours, right? Well, Hashem says, it's yours as long as I let you keep it. But there'll be a point of time to know that this land is going to have to return to its original owner, because you're not the real owner. You're not the real master here. I'm the real owner. And therefore, I can tell you to give back that land. The same regarding the freedom of the slaves. You're not, you may be an owner of a slave. You may have control over this person in a very strong way for a long time. But at a certain point of time, it's done. He returns to his family. He returns to himself. He's no more your servant. He will not be limited in who he serves. He will now be free, and basically free to serve Hashem in the fullest way, because there are certain limitations that are put on him when he's for a Jewish slave. So we actually, historically we know that that was not an easy, that these mitzvahs were not easy for the Jewish people to keep. To give back land, to allow a slave to go free, wasn't easy for them. The prophets had chastised them for the fact they didn't keep it. As a matter of fact, the Torah actually says that the Jewish people will go into exile for not keeping Shemitah. If they didn't give the land the rest it's supposed to, the land will rest because they won't be on it anymore. So the Chinuch is saying that the mitzvah of Yovel, similar in theme to the mitzvah of Shemitah, is the idea that, the real master and owner of the earth, of the land, of the world is Hashem. And he will decide where things should be. And he actually says, I guess something in his time, that there were actually kings who actually, who would take away land from people. It sounds like even from their own officers and officials. All for the point of showing, I'm in control, I'm the boss here. I am the king, I'm the boss. And it was really meant to instill fear in these people. Here, says the Chinuch, the idea of the land being taken away from someone by Hashem is really meant as to remind us of the true understanding that we are to have of the world. And it's not just about instilling fear in us, but as he says, like everything else he says, everything, every mitzvah, everything, Hashem does it to purify us for our benefit, for our good. So that is the lesson of Yovel. The lesson of Yovel is that what you think you own, you and are master of, you are not. The true owner and master of everything is the creator of the world. And these are the lessons and the messages that we're meant to internalize in Shemitah and Yovel. Shemitah reminds us 6 days Hashem created the world, the 7th he rested. Hashem decides what grows out of your field isn't going to be yours because of the fact that he is the true owner and master of everything. And by Yovel, again, that's going to be a 50th year where the land is going to lay fallow, but you also are going to have the fact that the slaves go free, the land returns to its ancestral ownership. That's all part of the same message. The world is Hashem's. He is the true master. He does what he wills. And whatever he does concerning us is always for our best. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful evening.